Monday, June 13th. And Jack, we're just going to tee you up on Tony La Russa for this episode of the Just Baseball Show. But no, we got a little bit more to talk about also. The best team ever constructed. I was told that Tennessee was the best team ever constructed in college baseball history. They lose to Notre Dame. The Fighting Irish are going to the College World Series. I've really enjoyed the Super Regionals. We're going to talk a little bit about Walker Buehler and what his injury means for the Dodgers, as well as Aaron Judge and how he is just making baseball look extremely easy. But again, Tony La Russa, Jack McMullen.
Yeah, what about him? Here's the thing about Tony. There have been two managers fired in Major League Baseball this year, both of which have been named Joe. The third one should not be named Joe. That's kind of where my thoughts end on Tony La Russa. I love that Guaranteed Rate Field, formerly known as US Cellular Field, which I still call it, started a Fire Tony chant on Friday or Saturday. Because it's clear as day. And when we had Matt Spiegel on a couple of weeks ago to talk about the White Sox ineptitude in certain spaces, it starts and stops with Tony. I mean, like, it starts and stops with the loyalty hires of Jerry Reinsdorf. And I've done this song and dance with Kenny Williams for a long time. Rick Hahn was a saving grace for the White Sox. And instead of like wallowing in mediocrity, Rick Hahn decided to tear it down, start a legitimate rebuild, and then put together one of the most exciting rosters in all of Major League Baseball. He's incredible at his job. I want him to be the general manager of the White Sox for the foreseeable future. You can only do so much when the manager continues to shoot you in the foot literally every day, and you don't let the wounds heal. That's Tony. Apparently, Liam Hendricks wasn't available in a 12-inning game yesterday, but he's available tonight when they open the series in Detroit. It doesn't make any sense to me. They're dealt bad hands consistently. Like Keuchel went down, or not Keuchel. Thank God Keuchel's DFA'd, but Kopech went down yesterday. Today, Lance Lynn's going to start, which is going to be great. But you shove Johnny Cueto into a relief appearance that he had no idea was coming. But yeah, we really want to talk about the 1-2 intentional walk here. The situation changed. I think a lot of people are just looking at it in a vacuum right now. Like, oh, he walked Trey Turner in a 1-2 count. On 0-2, there was a wild pitch that allowed a runner to advance to second base. Still, got a 1-2 count on Trey Turner, dude.
Yeah.
Go after it.
I don't really understand that one. He's like, did you see his numbers in a 1-2 count against lefties, or two strike counts against
two strike counts against lefties? Have you seen Muncie's two strike splits and all that shit?
Which didn't make sense because you had 0 strikes on Muncie at that point when you're starting the new at bat.
He's an idiot, dude. I mean, like, there's nothing impressive about Tony, the way that he manages in game or the way that he manages a post-game press conference. He said, was there really any question about that? Because that was the right move. What do you mean?
That was the craziest part, is he was like baffled that he got a question about the fact that he intentionally walked not only one of the fastest players in baseball, and yes, he's been swinging it great, but it's a 1-2 count. You're one pitch away, one borderline call, one bad swing away from just getting the guy out. And what made me more concerned about it is if he really came out and just said, yeah, I went against the grain there. It was like the equivalent of, just me doing the opposite of what the book says when I'm playing blackjack and just going by feel. I'd be like, stupid, but whatever. But the fact that he was like falling back on this, well, have you seen his strikes against lefties or his numbers against lefties with 2 strikes? Like, who cares? Who really cares about that? And then beyond that, to go give a nod to Max Muncy. Have you seen his numbers with 2 strikes against? You don't have 2 strikes on Max Muncy yet. You got to get there, and getting the first 2 strikes is harder than getting the last strike a lot of the time. I just don't really understand how that could be the approach that we take here, and that he could stand by it and defend it. I think it's absolutely nuts that Tony La Russa is able to just kind of do whatever he wants in that dugout. And he's got to be losing the players. I mean, there's not one player on the team, I think, that would defend that move. and feel confident that the guy steering the ship is steering the ship well. I'm gonna spare any drunk driving jokes.
Yeah, thank you for that. Do you think that he has any hands on the ship steering wheel? Like, I think he is beautifully oblivious to the fact that he was the tabbed driver of the ship. I mean,
his hands are on the steering wheel. I would say that he took the steering wheel and just yeeted it like into a pole in that game. Like that's exactly what he did. He has the ability to legitimately screw things up, and in some spots he fully is.
There are moments within a White Sox season last year and this year where you think, how can we get worse than this? And we shouldn't have to do that. Like, as a fan base, you shouldn't have to do that. How can we get more stupid than this? Because one stupid thing should be a standalone stupid thing, and you should learn from your mistakes. But it's almost like Tony La Russa is continuing to push the envelope of stupidity. It's like, oh, let's see how he's going to better this. And chances are, before the end of the year, he may better that. That's not going to be his worst thing. I hope so too. That would be hilarious. And that would make sports talk radio, that would make podcasts love Tony La Russa, because you always expect something stupid. Let's see if he can do something more stupid.
I think he's going to. So I'm very excited to see that. I wish he was a little bit more. I wish he gave more answers on the press conferences, because they'd be even dumber. But he keeps it kind of short, because I think he knows that he will kind of tell on himself in these press conferences if he does not keep it short. But the guy has no clue what he's doing anymore. I'm honestly surprised he's even enjoying himself at this point. Like, I almost think that he's got to be miserable and just doesn't even want to do this anymore. Like, why is he even doing it? I guess the money. But I don't really understand. I don't think he's enjoying it. Like, I don't know what Tony La Russa is doing. And again, I tried to imagine. I know people are saying, "Oh, it's not as bad inside the clubhouse as you think," or blah blah blah. And I don't know. I can't pretend I know what's going on in there. But I just can't even fathom a world where Tony La Russa is seeing eye to eye with not only Tim Anderson, but how about just the rest of even Yasmani Grandal? Like, I don't even see him seeing eye to eye with Yasmani Grandal. I don't see him seeing eye to eye with legitimately anybody not named Lance Lynn. So for whatever reason, I feel like Lance Lynn and him can get along all right, because Lance Lynn just said, I'm gonna go out there and chuck a bunch of fastballs, and like, that's it.
I'm gonna send you.
I just don't really know, man.
I'm going to send you the inning that Lance Lynn was on NBC Sports Chicago, because you're going to have this new appreciation for Lance Lynn, and you'll put him in the league above Tony La Russa. That guy's hilarious, and he's got everybody's back. What I will say is, hearing from so many players in interviews and, just like constantly monitoring that situation, because I thought Tony would have lost the clubhouse by the time he came in. And I actually think he's established a little bit of capital within that clubhouse. And I do think that, there are some guys that like Tony La Russa. I do. TA has spoken about he and Tony's relationship. And, obviously it got off on the wrong foot, because the hiring of Tony La Russa will tell you enough. But apparently they do like each other. Tony La Russa does not have the confidence in the clubhouse, I don't think. But
no way.
I think that he is liked in the clubhouse. I don't think that he's a dickhead. I think that he wants the best for everybody. I just think that he's an idiot when it comes to managerial decisions now. And it's not even like he was an outdated thinker. Like, you can go back to his time in St. Louis or his first stint with the White Sox. And I've heard multiple people through anecdotes say that Tony La Russa was not a great decision maker back then either. He's been surrounded by a lot of talent. He's been surrounded by Albert Pujols and Adam Wainwright and Chris Carpenter. Like, it was never Tony La Russa. I'm thinking, like, I don't know what manager has willed their team to a World Series. I don't think there is one.
Yeah, that's a thing. I think we over attribute, I think
next to nothing. The manager has next to no control once the first pitch is thrown.
Yeah, and especially in older baseball, I think now the manager has more of a responsibility because of the matchups, the shorter starts, the bullpen management, the splits. Like there's a little bit more to it, I think, now, as dumb as that sounds, because back then you could just ride a starter into the seventh, go to your setup guy, and then go to your closer. Like, there was not that much to go with. Splits were not as important.
Clarify back then. Guys. clarify back then for me, because a starter going 7 is like 10 years ago. 20 years ago was like, oh, we'll just run them out for 9. Our best guys can throw a complete game.
And like, that's my point. So, I think it's just a different game. And I don't like taking away from championships and things like that. But at the end of the day, I feel like a manager can only do so much for you, and they can hurt you more than they can help you. I almost like, you could just have a neutral status quo manager and several teams would still win their championships, right? Like, if you could just put an automated neutral manager, like robot manager, I really feel like a lot of teams would still have won their titles.
Yeah, a zero war manager.
A zero war manager,
and
replacement
that's the
level.
thing. I think Tony La Russa, much like Joe Girardi, who we'll get to in a moment here, like, I guess they were negative war managers. I know for sure that Tony La Russa is a negative war manager. I'm less sold that Joe Girardi was a negative war manager. I thought that he was just a zero war manager. But yeah, I mean, Tony, like, there are so many bad decisions that he makes baseball wise and off the field in recent years, but through the course of a game, baseball wise, that just continue to kick his ass. Yeah, I do think that a lot of these teams, and I don't think that we are demeaning managers or championship teams. I actually think that we're putting more credit in the players' hands, because the players are the ones that like win the championships. Like the players are the ones that win games.
That's one that I talked to Jeff Conine about, because if you remember, like, the Marlins 2003 World Series, they were horrible through the first couple months. They fired their manager, and then Jack McKeon steps in, and McKeon obviously helps lead the Marlins to the World Series. And I asked Jeff, what did McKeon do that was so great? And he's like, honestly, he took his hands off the reins a little bit and
got out of our way.
Go out there, play, have fun, and just play with nothing to lose. Like, we already fired the manager. You guys are 10, 12 games under 500. Play with the house's money and see how it goes. And he said that was the most liberating feeling. And actually, one of the craziest things about McKeon is he almost never went to the bench. Like, he stuck with the starters almost every single day. Like, there was no platoons. There was not much of this, not much of that. Like, that's what McKeon did. And the Marlins won the World Series. So it's just one of those things. And again, I think there's instances where you can point towards the manager making that difference, or in a positive or negative way. But I look at even like Tennessee, and is anybody going to, but is anybody going to look at Tennessee and be like, Tony Vitello, just came up short in that 3-game series. For those wondering, that's Tennessee's coach. And like, no one's going to say that, right? Like, no one's going to be like, is Tony Vitello on the hot seat after a really disappointing postseason display with one of the most talented teams ever? I know it's different in college because you literally put the team together and you recruit them. But my point is, no one's looking at Tony and being like, he could have managed that team better in that 3-game set. He could have been in control more so in that 3-game set. But it is pretty shocking that Tennessee goes down here to Notre Dame. And I don't think anybody had that happening, right? I mean, you guys did the college baseball episode. I listened to most of it. And it was really kind of just, are you taking the field or are you taking Tennessee? And yes, you want to say the field, but you almost had to talk yourself into saying the field.
Yeah. Peter Flaherty, who is what's his title? He went over it. So assistant general manager. Is he the assistant GM of the Katuitt Cavaliers?
It's like GM liaison. Is that what he called it?
Liaison of the
Basically, what he does is he talks to every professional scout, every team, whatever, every time they come in town. But also, he helps put together the Katuitt Cavaliers roster, which is the Cape Cod League team. So he knows every college roster like the back of his hand, because he's always looking for players to go over into the Cape. And one of his best finds, I think, is Nick Gonzalez, because he was one of the first guys to really say, let's give Nick Gonzalez a shot at the highest level, at the highest college level, and see how he does, because I believe in him. And, Nick obviously went into the next stratosphere in the Cape. Yeah. So, I mean, Pete knows his shit.
Pete knows his shit, and Katuitt's got a Cam Collier right now as well, who's going to go top 10 in this year's draft. So that's going to be fascinating to see where he goes. And he's got the next couple of weeks, next month or so, out on the Cape with Katuitt. But Pete Flaherty and I both couldn't talk ourselves into the field we talked about Tennessee versus the field. We both picked Tennessee. King Apple, he went with Oregon State. So I guess he technically went with the field. But yeah, what was so fascinating to me about Tennessee, and you're right, like you can't pin that on the coach. And by the way, college baseball head coaches are head coaches. When you get to professional baseball, they are managers.
Yes.
Short season A ball. The Auburn Double Days. I walk into manager Rocket Wheeler's office. Rocket Wheeler, a minor league great. And I sit down for the first pregame coaches show. And I start with, you were the head coach of the Double Days, Rocket Wheeler. And he reached over, tapped the stop button on my phone, stopped recording and said, let's get one thing straight here. I know you just came from all that college stuff. I'm the manager of this team. I'm not the head coach of this team. And I never made that mistake again. I never will make that mistake again because he's not the head coach. He's the manager. But in college, you are the head coach. The thing about Tennessee is, yes, like you got to pin that a little bit on the head coach because of the recruiting and all that in a typical instance. But you're right. This was one of the best college teams ever created. I mean, we went over it with Pete Flaherty, 1 through 8 had 12 plus homers. Yeah. And you've got Chase Dollander, who's going out that looks like he could be the number 1 overall pick as an arm next year. And then you got Ben Joyce, who's throwing 60 pitches at 103 miles an hour. It's ridiculous. And they lose to Notre Dame. There was one video that started circulating of Drew Gilbert getting tossed from a game.
Yes.
That was objectively hilarious.
I texted you, we must talk about this. So, and I actually was watching that one live, which was awesome because just watch. I went to the kitchen and I just hear like when you hear like the announcers kind of break their general like cadence, like what's going on here? It's like and that's where I was like, so I jumped. I was like, okay, I'm going to come over and look. And I see, I missed the initial, like, you're out of here. And all I see is basically the entire Tennessee dugout, like every coach running out there like, what the hell? And then everybody was at first, even the announcer was a color guy. And I'm sorry, I forgot who was on the call for that game. But the color guy was like, oh, I don't like this. Throwing a guy out of the super regional. Hate this. Like, ump show, blah, blah, blah. And I was in the same boat. I'm like, why are you tossing this kid? They cut it to replay and everybody's probably seen this clip by now, which is just him looking back. And he looks like the obnoxious bully in like a 90s movie, just the way he's talking, just so much like lip action, like face crinkled up. And Drew Gilbert could be a great guy. I don't want to I don't know Drew Gilbert, so I'm not going to like rip him as a person, but I'm just going to tell you what he looked like here. That's fucking terrible. Like, that's fucking terrible.
And the eye black warrior streaks going down his cheeks, those don't do him any favors there.
No. And here's the thing. It's sad that he got tossed. Did it maybe change the complexion of the series? Maybe, but their whole lineup, like you said, 12 plus homers. I don't think one bat's really making a difference. Still, you can't say that to an umpire and then be shocked that you got tossed. And that was my favorite part. He gets tossed and his mouth is frozen wide open, like he saw a ghost. Like he was floored that he could tell someone that they were fucking terrible multiple times and not be tossed. Like, what was he getting away with in conference play?
Not even that. I think our guy Michael Fisher at Codify said, listen, after watching so much of this, you can say that. Do not make eye contact. And he was staring directly at the home plate umpire, direct eye contact, saying that's fucking horrible. That's fucking horrible. What are you doing?
With like the face and like the man, like, I don't even know.
Like, he's like offended that he just got tossed. Like, what do you think is going to happen? You just demeaned this guy to his face. Eye contact. Yeah. You deserve to get tossed. Also, that was Tom Hart and Kyle Peterson, I think, doing Tennessee and Notre Dame, who I will stand by, professional baseball or college baseball. That's the best baseball booth on television. Tom Hart.
No, I enjoyed
Peterson. They're so good at what they do. They've got, SEC Network, like, those primetime games every weekend. I hope they'll do the College World Series. I think Tom Hart's going to do it over Carl Ravage this year because he's got Sunday Night Baseball, but it's Tom Hart, Kyle Peterson, Chris Burke. That is the best baseball booth anywhere. And I love Kyle Peterson. I am totally with you. Like, immediately you side with the player. Like, this is one of the biggest games of his life. You
Yeah.
can't toss him from that. But when you make direct eye contact and pretty much say fuck you and fuck your family, like you're getting tossed.
Well, that's the immediate switch, right? That was the immediate flip flop for me. Was it went from this is the most important game of this player's life, don't toss him, to this is the most important game of all of your teammates' life. You can't just hold it in. And he could have looked at him and been like, that's terrible. Like it was really the multiple. That's fucking, I think he even got away with the first one. It was like the second one where the umpire's like, all right, man, like get out of here. And that you screwed your teammates there because you couldn't hold it in. You couldn't zip it. And, that is pretty nuts. I understand they're kids, and like we're at the point now where we're older than these guys by a handful of years, a lot of these dudes. And I'm not going to pretend like it, 20 years old, I wouldn't do some dumb things, 19 years old, but even playing in high school, I never said a word. I was always too scared. I like, why? For what? You're not going to get him to change the call. You're not going to make him a better umpire by yelling at him. And clearly he paid the price. But the funniest part to me was just his face, just the wide open jaw drop, frozen there like he saw a ghost. And that was my favorite part. But I want to wrap up real quick with just, the college baseball field right now. Get a little bit of talk on that. And then we'll get into Buehler, Dodgers, Judge, and a little bit of everything else that we want to touch on. But real quick on just the college baseball front, the fact, and just baseball period, the fact that Tennessee lost is what makes baseball so great. Is there is no way that you really know who's going to win before the end of the season. And I don't want to bash basketball because I love basketball. And right now there's a lot more parity in the NBA. But to me, there was no worse time in NBA history in my lifetime than when you knew who was winning the finals almost every year going into it with that Warriors team for consecutive seasons. Yeah, you just kind of knew. Or at least you knew who was going to be there, right? Like you knew they were going to the finals.
It was like, LeBron versus Stephen Durant every year.
And Tennessee didn't even make it to the College World Series. So, like that's something that I really love about baseball. It's so unpredictable. And Notre Dame, I won't even pretend to know much about them. Like I kept asking, do they really have it like this, or is this lightning in a bottle? And I think it's a little bit of both. But I've really enjoyed so far, the college baseball landscape. I've been trying to watch as much as I can, and it's been really enjoyable. It's good late night watching because of the weather, the West Coast, whatever. I've had so much fun watching Stanford. They can swing it like anybody. And dude, this is going to be a really fun College World Series because it gives you a little bit of everything. You have that Cinderella-ish teams. You have the behemoth, tough, whether it's Auburn or Oregon State or Stanford, you're going to have those teams in there potentially too. It's going to be a really fun field, man. And I really encourage people to watch some college baseball because the other part that I love, Jack, is that no game's ever over. I'll throw a 10-5 game on in the sixth, and that it's not even near over. It might as well be a one-run game in MLB standards.
Yeah. No, I mean, just look at those Oklahoma State regional scores, right? Those were ridiculous, where a team would rattle off like 10 runs in an inning, and then the other team would reciprocate with, 10 runs of their own in the next half inning. What's the best event? What is the best event in all of sports? I think you and I both agree on it. I think it's the NCAA men's basketball.
That was the Final Four.
I was just going to say the NCAA men's basketball tournament as a whole.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Because Gonzaga can lose in the Sweet 16. That's why it's so fun. Because you've got teams that pull off that crazy upset. You have the Florida Gulf Coast, you have the Oral Roberts, you have the St. Peter's that shows up. But then at the end of it all, you have a team that is pretty worthy of winning, hoisting the trophy. That's how the NCAA baseball tournament works too. That's how the Women's 100%. College World Series works too. There's so much fanfare in the Women's College World Series and the Men's College World Series, but Oklahoma was very deserving. And on that one, it might have been Oklahoma versus the field, and Tennessee's out, and it's Tennessee versus the field. But I promise you, the team that wins the College World Series this year is going to be more than deserving. I've never seen a fluky champion.
Even Coastal Carolina, the year Coastal Carolina won, I mean, they steamrolled. I mean, like they were just impressive. And that was a team that ended up now Coastal is a legitimate program. Like it is never really like that was kind of their coming out party. And now they're viewed as, even though they're not a Power 5 school, they are a legitimate program similar to ECU in some ways.
And even then, you can validate it by saying, you know what, like McCambly was committed to Coastal when that all happened. Like we just talked to Zach McCambly. Steven Matz had committed to Coastal before he bypassed to go to the draft. Like Coastal was a good program that got really good players, and then they ended up winning the whole damn thing. Mm-hmm. So now they're consistently churning out very talented rosters. That's what one national championship can do for you. But these teams, you can't win it all without a shit ton of talent. Like that Coastal roster had some really good talent. I mean, you even look overseas. You remember when Leicester City had that Premier League run when they weren't supposed to win? They still had some of the best players in the world. Like Jamie Vardy was like one of the best players in the world at that time.
I think N'Golo Kante was on that team, right? And he's considered one of the best, center defensive mids, right? So they ended up having players that spun off into other areas and ended up playing for some of the best clubs in the world.
In any sport, you can't win a championship without talent. Again, we're putting it on the players.
There's no fluky championships.
Yeah, like great. You want to give Jay Wright some credit at Villanova. Guess what? He's still had Archidiakono and Chris Jenkins the first time. He still had Jalen Brunson and Mikal Bridges the second time. Like
he put together a great team.
He put together great teams. That's what's going on here. Everybody's trying to win. I love listening to Tito Francona on the pregame coaches show on the Guardians radio. I love listening to Tom Hamilton. That sounds super random, but I love listening to the Guardians radio, and I love hearing Tito Francona speak pregame. And the thing that he keeps on expressing, every Major League Baseball team is really good, and they're all trying to win every game. That's how college baseball works too. Yeah. Notre Dame, like if you just look around the high school landscape, Notre Dame's commitment class every year is just full of really fucking good high school kids, just like Tennessee. There are a lot of really good baseball players.
It's just they're not perfect game. They're not perfect game top 20. They're perfect game top 150.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe perfect game was a little.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe perfect game was a little wrong. Like that's the craziest part. It's not like every MLB draft is chronological by perfect game ranking, right? Like that's the other crazy part of it too. And then that's where you get into like development and things like that as well. But Notre Dame, they've got pitching, and that's what's really impressive. But timely hitting, guys that just rise to the occasion. The last thing I want to say in college baseball, I love Stanford. I don't know what it is. I watch the Stanford team. I'm having a blast. Obviously,
Brock Jones and not Tommy Troy. Yeah, Tommy Troy, right?
Tommy Troy. But what's crazy? I'm watching this guy, Braden Montgomery, man. And I tried not to put like the prospector hat on and whatever. But then I'm just watching this guy swing and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to follow this guy up until his draft day. Like, is he going to be draft eligible next year? Nope. He's a freaking freshman. He's got 18 pumps. He hit 298 this year as, freshman. So he didn't have as much consistency, but he can throw on the mound, crazy arm, crazy athlete. His swing is like beautiful from the left side. I'm so in on this dude. And I asked Pete Flaherty, I was like, this guy could be a top 5 pick in 2 years, right? He goes, he could be the top pick in a couple of years. And so this Stanford team is really fun. And also Brock Jones is, going scorched earth right now. So I'm enjoying Stanford. They still got to get to the College World Series. We got a rubber match later today.
UConn, baby.
UConn's been some story too. And which is really funny because I went to see UConn play at FIU, Florida International University. And, it was Jeff Conine's first home game. I promised I'd go. I go out and watch the game with Griff. And it was just, I mean, FIU got knocked around, but FIU's not that great. I would have bet a lot of money on UConn not being a super regional team 1 game away from the College World Series at that moment. I knew they looked good. I would not have bet that. And, that's the other thing too, is teams get so much better as the year goes on. So many guys kind of like figure things out as the year goes on. Everybody's so malleable because they're young and getting their first, experience with college weight program and like college trainers. And like some people actually telling them, hey, you're not the best thing to ever touch a baseball field. And all of a sudden these guys kind of take their game to the next level. How many teams did we see? I mean, ECU, I think, was 500 through their first 20 something games and then just went on a tear. Like that's the cool thing about the college baseball season too, is all these players are so young and malleable that it can go from lost to found very quickly in that world. And that's what's really cool about college baseball as well.
Yeah, 100%, man. And I'm excited to see what Omaha looks like. We'll get going in Omaha on Friday. Today's the last day of the Super Regionals. So It's going to be really fun, and put Omaha on your baseball bucket list. I know you've been out there.
Oh yeah.
I've been out there. It's incredible. I like Omaha as a town year round, but that place.
Yeah, it's a hot take. That's a hot take. But
Is it a hot take? But I mean, it's
yes.
Brigadoon-ish where it pops up for, Brigadoon was like once every 100 years. Omaha is, for a week every year, and everybody converges on Omaha, Nebraska. And that place is a big ass party for a week.
It's a college.
Awesome.
It's a college atmosphere. It's awesome.
It's so awesome. Cool. So yeah, put Omaha on your bucket list. I still got to get out to Williamsport for the Little League World Series.
That's on our list too. That's 100% on our list too.
I think Williamsport and Omaha should be two things that you put on your bucket list.
And both in different ways are kind of baseball at their purest forms, which is really cool.
100%.
And it was really cool to see that last year. I want to talk about Walker Buehler real quick because, we knew something wasn't right? I mean, the guy had a 4.02 ERA before going on the IL with that forearm strain. It's going to be a while. That's pretty much all we know is that it's going to be a while. And the tough part with it is it's typically an indicator of some other issue. And again, we don't like to try to speculate, but all I know is I look at Jesus Luzardo with the Marlins, and I just talked to him the other day, and when we were at the game, and he says he feels good, and he had a similar forearm issue, and it was more precautionary to shut down. But he's like, there's a level of you just want to make sure you're 150% good to go before you fully start ramping it up again. And I feel like the Dodgers are going to do the same thing with Walker Buehler. Like, I know Marlins media keep asking the Marlins PR guy when I'm there, what's the update on Luzardo? And they're like, we don't have much, we're just kind of taking it day by day. And that's kind of how you have to do it. But that's not the answer that fans want. That's not the answer that the media wants. And I think we're seeing that, that's going to be the case with Walker Buehler here. And yes, the Dodgers have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to the starting pitching side, but no one's replacing Walker Buehler. And if we're talking about, how the game has to be won before you just crown somebody a champion, the Dodgers have kind of proven that to us every single year, except for 2020's Mickey Mouse season. I really think that this could be an interesting development here for the Dodgers. How do you replace Walker Buehler, or not even replace? How do you try to fill some of that void? And how long is Buehler going to be out? Can they stay afloat similar to the Mets, or are they going to feel this one a little bit more? I think a lot of that rides on Clayton Kershaw's ability to come back and actually help.
Yes, 100%. And I was going to say, you can't replicate or even attempt to fill in Walker Buehler with one guy, because the thing about Walker Buehler and the intrigue and what makes him one of the best pitchers on the planet is the consistency, the lock to throw 200 innings in a season. You're going to get one of the best pitchers in the game for 200 plus innings that year. Like that's what Walker Buehler is. You're not getting that from anybody else. Like, you cannot replace Walker Buehler with anyone in Major League Baseball, much like how you can't replace DeGrom and Scherzer with anybody in Major League Baseball. The Red Sox can't replace Chris Sale with anybody in Major League Baseball because they're all unique, and what they bring to a mound is so unique. And Buehler, his MO is consistency. He's going to go out, much like what Sandy Alcantara is doing right now. He's going to give you at least 6, probably 7, maybe 8, on a good day 9. That's what Walker Buehler does. Before we get any farther with the Dodgers and with Buehler, I do want to make sure that everybody listening to this podcast understands that when you see forearm with pitchers, slam the panic button.
Yes.
It's going to be a long time.
Yeah. And that's what sucks, because again, part of his MO is the durability. And now you don't want to run him into the ground. Even when he comes back, you're going to want to tread lightly. And that's part of what's great for him.
Yes. You look at Buehler now with the forearm, Lance McCullers with the forearm. McCullers is, look at what we're seeing right now.
Ambiguously out for a long time.
Yep. Luzardo, kind of same thing, right? Like Buehler, I was just, quickly skimming an article on Fangraphs because I was looking for the timetable, and no throwing for 8 weeks, and then he'll start with a light throwing program. That might get worse. Like, that's best case scenario. You're shut down for 2 months. That's
the thing. So you're shutting down for 8 weeks and then seeing how it feels. It might feel like shit. And that's the scary part. And that sucks, because I love Walker Buehler. I love watching him pitch. And let's assume they don't have him for let's say the majority of this season.
Let's say this year, dude.
Yeah, let's say he's out. And obviously we hope very much so that's not.
Oh my God. I want him back September 1st.
Yes. I like watching him throw every single,
he's my favorite pitcher in baseball.
Yeah. He's awesome. But what do the Dodgers look like? I mean, look, they're still in great shape, but Tony Gonsolin's going to come back to earth a little bit. Yeah. I do think that's going to happen. I think Tyler Anderson even though a lot of the advanced metrics point towards Tyler Anderson somewhat, being what he is, right? Like he's not just having a lot of good luck right now. Like he's throwing pretty well. I don't know if he's a 3.07 ERA guy. I mean, Julio Urias, even he, I think is going to regress a little bit. Kershaw being back hedges some of that. Kimbrel has been pretty terrible out of the bullpen. I like a lot of these minor league arms, Jack, but as we've talked about, they baby their pitching prospects. They baby a lot of their top guys. Do you think that we see them kind of force some of these AA guys up? I mean, we saw Ryan Pepe out. He showed flashes, but that's not a guy I think you trust to just slide into the rotation. Do we see them now go to, some of their AA prospects here and give them a shot? We see the AA jump kind of everywhere. We've seen it multiple times now across the game. Do the Dodgers force up Bobby Miller? Do the Dodgers force up one of these guys to try to slide into that rotation?
That's tough. I think they could get creative. I think that Bobby Miller could come up and go 4-5 max. And
he hasn't been good, by the way, in AA.
I know.
Gavin Stone.
Yeah, Stone's been good, right?
Stone's been outrageous.
Yeah.
Stone's been outrageous. Stone has a 1.59 ERA in 51 innings, 68 Ks, 11 walks.
Jesus, dude. Yeah. I mean, like in a perfect world, you don't speed up anybody's timeline, but this is not a perfect world. Walker Buehler's on the shelf. This isn't a perfect world. Much like what you said about Kershaw being an X factor, I think Dustin May is going to be an X factor. He comes back maybe end of July, early August from Tommy John. If May is ready and he's unleashed for the rest of the year, that's big, big, big for them. I think they can get creative. I think Pepio for 3, Stone for 3. Like that's what an outing could look like. It's a divide and conquer thing with young arms.
But here's the thing is the bullpen hasn't been as great as we're accustomed to. I mean, you look at Craig Kimbrel, 4.42 ERA. Brusdar Graterol, 4.28 ERA, although I argue he's never even really been that good of a reliever.
So I've got a question about Graterol. Is he a great reliever?
No, he's not. He never has been. I don't understand. I understand the allure to Brusdar Graterol. He throws really fast and it moves so much. It moves right into barrels or it moves out of the strike zone. So I don't really care.
If you want to use the term eye test, Brusdar Graterol passes the eye test with flying colors.
Yes, he fails every other test. And that's the thing is the eye test only matters so much, right? Like this is a dude that has a 4.13 ERA in 93 and 2/3 innings. This is not somebody that's been good really as a bullpen arm at really any juncture. He was a starter and they moved into the bullpen. Oh, he'll dominate there. He isn't. And I think he's being leaned on like a guy that's better than he is. And I think they're hoping that this stuff will kind of come together and he'll figure out how to put together an arsenal that strikes out guys in a way that we would expect. 22 Ks in 27 innings when it's 102 with movement. Who cares? So I look at the rest of this team bullpen wise, and they've got a little bit to figure out there too. They're not really shortening starts. And if you're going to go committee, piggyback, whatever, you got to have better than 4.42, 4.28. Even Vesia's at a 3.38, which is not what you want from your lefty specialist.
Yeah, I love Vesia,
modern day lefty specialist. It's been rough.
Yeah, I love Vesia. I think that he can uptick now. I think that's the type of guy. Yeah, he can show up for the moment. I think that's what Vesia is. Yeah, I mean, like it's going to be really interesting. And how long can Evan Phillips go? Because he's averaging about an inning per outing. It's tough. You need some long relievers. You need a guy to show up from Oklahoma City that just drastically outperforms what he does. And you know what? Maybe it's Pepio, but I don't think Pepio is going to be.
I think it's Gavin Stone. I think it's Gavin Stone. He's sitting mid 90s now. His command is unbelievable. He gets a ton of ground balls. And the stuff, he's got 4 pitches he's comfortable with. I think he can find a way to kind of, if you don't need to have the lineup go around 3 times against him. He can go through the lineup once or twice and really help you there. And Gavin Stone has been one of the best pitchers in the minor leagues period this year. And now they're starting to stretch him out a little bit more. He went 6 innings in his last outing. So, maybe they are trying to get him there because that's rare for Dodgers prospects to go 6 innings on the bump.
Yeah. So I saw Stone last year with High A Lake County, and he was more impressive than Beater. He was more impressive than Landon Knack. I think Bobby Miller was a little bit more impressive just because he lit up the radar gun, and that's what you look at immediately. But Stone, in terms of results, was as good, if not better, than Bobby Miller last year when I saw him. And I was like, damn, Gavin Stone could be the guy because, again, he was 93 to 95 in that outing. So Stone, I'm in on Gavin Stone if he's the guy. Maybe you rattled off the numbers. I'm not going to say, the stuff looks, premature or something because I haven't watched him yet this year. But that was a guy that I was really impressed by in 2021. And if the stuff is as good as the numbers indicate, then he might be ready to rock.
Apparently a tick up a little bit as well. And that's not a surprise from any pitcher in the Dodger system, as they usually know how to optimize things for you up there. And, I'm very interested to see if the Dodgers go outside the org or if they decide to go inside the org, since they have several arms at the AA level that are, kind of close to ready, and see the way the Dodgers decide to approach that.
You think they can go deal for Montas or Luis Castillo?
I think they can whenever they want. So, that's the question, right? I mean, they have Andy Pages, they have Miguel Vargas, they have all these guys too that they could easily go and package and trade.
All right, let's make a deal for Luis Castillo. What does it look like?
I mean, they can kind of do whatever they want, right? I mean, they could trade. I mean, I'm assuming they're not trading Cartaya or Miller. I think they could trade Michael Busch. They could trade Ryan Pepio and throw in James Outman.
You think that not? I think that might be an overpay.
It might be.
That's incredible. They've got so much depth,
and they're not feeling that at all. How about like Yorbit Vivas or Eddys Leonard? Like I could probably make 8 iterations of this trade with their top 20, and all of them are approved. They're all approved. I don't want to trade Pages or Vargas. I really don't. So I don't think even if you have to trade one of those guys, then you go Pages or Vargas, and then you can basically tap into Beater or Outman or Stone, who I wouldn't trade. Michael Grove. There's so many dudes. Landon Knack. They could figure out so many iterations of the trade. I would say legitimately out of their system, all these dudes could be the centerpiece of the deal. Diego Cartaya, Bobby Miller, Michael Busch, Andy Pages, Miguel Vargas could all be the centerpiece of the deal. Or you could go with 2 of Pepio, Knack, Leonard, Vivas, Wilman Diaz, Maddox Bruns. Those are all guys that 2 of them are more than enough to almost get the deal almost done. Gavin Stone, Jacob Amaya, all these guys are borderline top 150 prospects that could be centerpieces in a deal. It is disgusting.
Such is the beauty of player development. Do it in droves because they mastered it. I mean, Tampa with pitching, but the Dodgers spend the money to fill holes that they can't fill with player development.
And the Dodgers are better pitching wise right now than the Rays are organizationally. So it just is a testament to not only, they have money. That's great. They also scout, develop, they do everything. And you can say that budget helps, but also they've got a system that works.
No, man, go grab a Rays guy and take him from the kiddie pool to the Atlantic Ocean or the Pacific Ocean, I guess, if you're going to the West Coast, right? If Friedman learned the tactics of working in the kiddie pool and then you just gave him the keys to the castle.
Correct. Let's wrap up with some Aaron Judge.
Yeah.
It's pretty surreal what we're seeing this guy do. It feels like every time I check the box score of a Yankees game, Aaron Judge is homering. Every time I go on Twitter, I see Just BB Media tweeting a video of Aaron Judge doing it again.
Here comes the judge.
Yeah. I mean, it's insane. 318, 391, 686 slash line. It's a 199 WRC plus.
Yeah.
24 pumps in 58 games.
Yeah.
The question that keeps being asked is, does he hit 60? And I really do think the question is health dependent. I really think that's it. I think that's the only thing that's going to stop Aaron Judge from hitting 60. The only thing that's going to stop Aaron Judge from hitting 60 is Aaron Judge.
I love that we talk about Roger Maris, like the home run record still, even though Bonds and McGuire and Sosa
well, why is Roger Maris should be like, it shouldn't even be a topic, really. Like, is he going to match Maris? Okay.
Like, Maris was what, 60, 61? Or 62?
60, right?
No, Maris was 61 or 62. I'll tell you right now.
61.
Maris was 61. Yeah. In 1961, he was 61. Yeah, I think Judge can get to Maris. It's like, imagine.
What do you call him when he gets to Maris? He beat the non-steroid,
the clean record. Home run record.
The clean home run record. Congratulations.
Which I do put some stock in. Like, you know, I
do
totally believe that. Doing this in a walk year is incredible. I mean, this is the biggest dick on the table moment from a baseball player in modern history. Aaron Judge putting together this year in a contract year after he said that the previous offer he got was nowhere close to what he needed, and like now he's hitting 60 bombs.
And we were all like, yeah, I think it's pretty close.
Come on, dude, you know, like played a full year in a minute.
like you haven't played a full year. You're 30. I thought it was a fair offer, and he's like, no. I'll show you why it wasn't a fair offer. I'm gonna have a 1077 OPS through 60 games of the season almost. It's comical.
Dude, okay, so I was thinking about throwing this hypothetical out there. Like, what if he got hurt tomorrow and missed the rest of the year, but was ready to go for opening day next year? What does a contract look like for him? But let's just imagine still mega, right?
Yes.
What if he does hit 60 bombs and plays for the rest of the year? What does a contract look like for him?
I don't think we would have never seen a higher AAV for a 30-year-old ever, other than, you know, offensively. Like, I think it would have been like we've seen Scherzer's AAV, but like it's one of the weirdest contractual situations I think we've ever seen, right? Where it's like a 30-year-old who has one of the best seasons we've seen in the modern era. And no one wants to give him 7 years, but I think someone will have to. So I think it'll be one of those 7-year guys that like it would be 7 years for what, 30 plus a year?
More than that, dude. How much is Trout making a year?
Oof, 34? Is that one?
No, I think Trout's making a little bit more than that. How much is
12-year 426 for Trout, including a $20 million signing bonus? Trout makes 35.4.
35.4. Okay. What's 270 divided by 70 or by 7? 38.5. How about
I think it's a little bit less than that.
37 a year would be 260 for 7 years.
But didn't he turn down 250?
No, he turned down 200, I want to say.
Okay.
For 7.
I think around the 260 range.
250 divided by 7 is 35 a year for 7 years. How do you say no to that?
I think that's what he gets. I think that's what he gets.
250 for a 30-year-old.
7 years, 250 for a 30-year-old is, I think, what he gets with you know, MVP incentives that can, you know, escalate it to 270.
And what do the opt-outs at the end look like? Player or club?
Oh, he gets player opt-outs, I think. But do the Yankees do that? I don't think the Yankees do that. Do they?
Do they not do player opt-outs? Is that like an organizational thing?
I mean, I know Stanton had an opt-out because the Marlins gave it to him, and the Marlins
gave him the deal.
I'm trying to think, when's the last time the Yankees?
That would be funny as fuck if that came from like Steinbrenner in like when he first got.
I might be making that up. I have no idea.
We control you. By the way, no facial hair.
Yeah, no facial hair,
Judge
and you
signed
can never
elsewhere and got
opt
a
out.
beard?
No, Garrett Cole has an opt out. I'm a clueless idiot.
It's okay. What if Judge went to like Texas and grew this big ass beard?
Wouldn't that be believable though if I literally told you the Yankees don't allow opt outs?
Yes, I would totally believe that.
So the
I would have
Marlins
been
used to
forged
do that. So the reason why I believe that is the Marlins used to say they used to have a team policy that they don't do opt outs because. And the Marlins used to just take a chunk out of the Yankees playbook all the time. So I was like, the facial hair thing, they did a similar thing as well. Andrew Kashner had to shave with the fish. So I was like, maybe that they got that opt out thing from the Yanks. They didn't. But anyways, I think he gets 7,250. I think he hit 60 home runs this year. I'll be honest. I think he's going to do all the crazy things this year. And he's on pace for like a 11, 12 war season potentially.
Yeah, unanimous MVP season.
Which is crazy because Mike Trout is playing good baseball. I mean, already all the way back from his 0 for 28 slump, all the way back. But yeah, I mean, right now there's just no doubt. The crazy thing is he's played 25 games in center too. Judge has like he's playing center field. Dude. He's playing a great
and he looks like a Gold Glover. Yeah,
it's so fucking annoying. Like
it's so annoying.
This guy's ridiculous. He's legitimately playing center field at like. I think in center he's been average, and in right he's been elite, or at least well above average. Like it is unfair. It is annoying. He's a freak, and it's just stupid what he's doing right now. And I mean, with what the Yankees have pitching wise and what Aaron Judge is doing offensively, I don't know how you can really point towards any other team being the favorite right now. I got to say, I think the Yankees at this moment, which things change, but gun to my head at this moment, the Yankees are my favorite.
Me too, because of what the starting pitching is doing, because of what Montgomery and what Tyone and what Nestor, obviously, and what Severino are doing, and that's not even mentioning Garrett Cole. Where do you put Judge at this moment? And I know we're so quick to just shut it down and be like, this list doesn't change as often as pitchers. Like pitchers, the top pitcher on the planet, that list changes all the time. But hitters, it's been Mike Trout for a while. And then like Mookie and Juan Soto rounded out the top three for a while. And then Acuna came into the conversation, and then Tatis came into the conversation. If the hitter list changed as often as the pitcher list does, where is Judge in terms of best hitters on planet Earth right now? Right now, at this very moment, is he the top dog?
I think he's right there. Yeah, I mean, like I'm taking Mike Trout, obviously.
Yeah, moving forward through the end of the year. For me, it's probably Trout and then Judge.
Yes. I think if you took the stats from this point to the end of the season, I think him and Trout are going to be hand. Here's the difference is like, I don't know if Judge replicates this season exactly next year. Like Trout, I think teams will adjust to Judge a little bit and he'll hit 48 home runs a year. But the thing with Trout is like,
this is a regular year.
It's a regular year. So I would say that Trout's always Trout, but Aaron Judge to me is now in that, elite bucket of very few guys. And like, I even think Jose Ramirez, who is quietly having also the most outrageous season ever. If we're talking about just hitter, I'd put I think Judge is right there with Trout, and like it almost gets impossible to stack these guys up with each other. But yeah. I mean, you talk to hitters. Remember when we were talking on our trip through the South, and we are talking to like Griffin Conan, and we are talking to a bunch of different guys, even Zach McCambley, to bring him up again. Like, and we're like, who do you watch? And they're like, dude, not just because of the numbers, just like Judge's swing and like it's just how well he is able to repeat his movements for a 6'7" guy. Like I've talked to so many different people now, players in the minor leagues. I'm like, who do you watch? And always Mike Trout was always the answer, but now I'm hearing more Judge and more Judge and more Judge and more Judge, and more people are watching Judge. And if he's kind of that caricature of what guys want to be, that's kind of one of the prerequisites to best in baseball, I think. And we're seeing him start to be more of that guy that everybody wants to emulate.
Yeah. Talking to guys in 2019, 2020, I heard Christian Yelich all the time. And now you're right. I'm hearing more and more Judge, because these are guys, when you're the best in the biz at the moment, and you do things that are so admirable with your swing, like you mentioned, Judge is just point A to point B. What Christian Yelich was doing in those like MVP years, I mean, so much of that lower half and so much turn. It was beautiful.
It wasn't sustainable.
Yeah. I mean, it was just a lot of guys were looking at that like, I want to be that. A lot of guys are looking at Judge now and saying, I'm 6 foot, 190 pounds, but I want to be that. And
Yeah.
You can't do it. Just quickly to wrap, a minute on J-Ram, because this dude is a freak of nature. He should start at third base in the American League. I know that Rafael Devers is having a great year, but what Jose Ramirez is doing, like, he should get MVP votes. That's the thing. Like, I know some people are going to vote for Ohtani, but Ohtani has been above average in 2 facets of the game. Judge can be the unanimous AL MVP. Trout is so unbelievably good. But Jose Ramirez, dude, like, you could argue that the 3 best hitters in baseball right now are all in the American League.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing about Jose Ramirez. I had this moment. I was watching the highlights, the condensed game from the Guardians the other day. He might be the best slider I've ever seen.
He's like, incredible.
He slides around tags. He comes in full speed. You know, most people, they say, like, don't head first slide when we're kids because you subconsciously slow down.
Yeah.
He does it. And it makes me a little nervous, but like, he comes in flying. And that's the thing. Like, Jose Ramirez, I think what he brings you is almost immeasurable in some ways because he is such a good base runner as well. Not just on the stolen base front, where he has already swiped 163 bags in his career and has 9 this year, but also in the front of just taking the extra base, making the slides, doing all the little things. Like, if I were to go to try to make a trade, that's one of the first guys I'm going after, especially because contractually he's one of the most robbed players, I think, in modern history. Yeah. But the guy is walking twice as much as he's striking out. He's hitting 292 while hitting 16 home runs with 9 stolen bases. He's striking out 7% of the time, Jack. And like, he's a switch hitter who plays good defense at third. And again, does the little things like sliding well. He might be one of the most well-rounded, like, he might be the best, like, 5-tool player we've seen in a while. And I think Mookie's there too, obviously, but J-Ram has this, like, I think almost different notch in terms of just all of the little things he does. I love Mookie, but the craziest part about J-Ram, 254 BABIP right now, which is tied for the lowest of his career.
Yeah.
So it might be a little unlucky so far.
J-Ram has 37 extra base hits so far. In 56 games, he's got 37 extra base hits, and he's got 59 ribbies to lead all of baseball. He's a freak, dude. And he's striking out 7% of the time. And he's got 37 extra base hits. I mean, can't believe that.
16 home runs, 17 strikeouts.
And at this point, the best that he can finish in MVP voting is third. It's incredible.
16 home runs, 17 strikeouts, Jack.
Dude, we can bitch about this sport all we want. We're so lucky to have the dudes playing this sport that we have right now.
I think right now it is one of the most, in years, we have not really seen this much loaded top end talent.
I don't want to hear shit from anybody that says, oh, like, you know, there were better eras. Fuck no, dude. This is the best era of baseball we've ever seen in our lives. I mean, you look around the league, the shittiest teams in baseball. The Royals have Bobby Witt Jr. Do you know how transcendent a talent Bobby Witt Jr. could be?
Yeah.
There is intrigue on all 30 rosters. It's incredible.
Yep. No, it really is amazing. I even look just across the whole game. I mean, and not just Bobby Witt. Got to give a shout out to, like, MJ Melendez.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
This guy's a rookie. He's played 35 games. He has 6 homers already, and he's 30% above average by WRC plus. Like,
dude, and don't come at me with the Reds, because I'm watching Graham Ashcraft throw 100-mile-an-hour bowling ball cutters,
and he's not even the must-see rookie on that team. It's freaking Hunter Green right now, who's blowing it by guys at 102, and that's the lowly Reds. Like, every team has dudes worth watching. Even the Nationals have Juan Soto. Yeah, it's baseball's in a great spot overall, and there's just so much talent top to bottom. Jack, any final thoughts before we call it an episode?
No, man. I mean, I just talked about how awesome baseball was. I feel like that's the final thought to end all.
I
final
know.
thoughts.
I'm like floored. I'm floored.
Yeah.
I'm floored. Usually you complain about baseball on your baseball podcast.
Yeah, correct.
That's how it usually goes here. But no, it was so really excited about what we're churning out on justbaseball.com, continuing to add writers there and basically covering everything. I don't think we miss anything at all anymore, which is crazy, super fun. And Twitter continues to grow really quickly. We're tweeting out highlights of every single game. So if you're on the road, if you're at work and you want to keep up, just follow us at Just BB Media on Twitter, and we've got the highlights of every game. It's been pretty cool to see. I thought we just hit 5,000 followers on there, and all of a sudden I look back, we're at 5,300, and people are starting to really enjoy the highlights. And our guys, I've been killing it. Ethan and Elijah have been phenomenal on that front. So really, really excited about what we've got there. Of course, Prospect Podcast as well, which has been a lot of fun, and that's been humming. Of course, you got to listen to Not Gambling Advice, a lot of fantasy information over there. But yeah, man, also if we ever get some episodes of our college baseball show, the Boys of Spring, hopefully they'll fire out a couple episodes for the College World Series. But we're always talking some college baseball on here too. And we've got a lot more college baseball written content on justbaseball.com as well. Jack, anything interesting you're seeing on the AAA level over the next couple of days? Are you going to see any guys making a start?
Yeah, Indy's in Gwinnett this week. So that Gwinnett roster has our friend of the program, Tucker Davidson. They've also got
Tuck.
They've also got Kyle Muller. They've got Tuki Toussaint. They've got Huascari Noah. So I think
that's probably the best minor league rotation in terms of big league pedigree.
I will see. I'm going to see a loaded. I'm going to see a loaded starting rotation in Gwinnett this week.
All right, well, let us know who's next up there to go help the surging Braves, who don't really need that much help in the pitching front. We're going to save Spencer Strider for you for next episode, but he's been phenomenal. And we'll talk a little Strider there too on the next episode, but look out for that guy because he is nasty. That'll do it for this episode. We will talk to you on Tuesday. It'll be Jack and Peter.